It's PRESSCORE, people. I'm David Cruz, back from not attending the annual League of Municipalities conference in Atlantic City. Still, maybe some news came out of there. Let's bring in our panel today. Madison Fernandez covers New Jersey for Politico. Aliya Schneider covers the state for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And Brent Johnson is the politics reporter for NJ Advanced Media. Panel, welcome to you all. I was going to ask who goes to the league anymore, but Mikie Sherrill over there tells us over 17,000 people this year. Brent, I think I saw you in an exhibit hall TikTok. Is that possible?
I was. I went down there on Tuesday, mostly to go to the evening receptions to see who's going to be there. I'm like, I'm going to pop over to the convention hall because it is. And I did a TikTok about how it's one of the weirdest places, like Comic-Con, but for New Jersey government. You know, like you walk around, there's like all these swag on these tables and people selling you garbage trucks, and you look up like there's a garbage truck, and then there's boardwalk games, and then you cross town to go to the casinos, and all of a sudden there's all these high-powered people like clicking glasses and trading business cards and probably doing deals. And it's a weird it's a weird thing. If you ever get a chance to go and you care about New Jersey politics, you'll enjoy yourself for like a day.
And by the way, just curious, raise your hand if you're on TikTok.
Am I it?
It's
the only way my wife sees me is she watches me on TikTok.
My cat's on TikTok, but I'm not.
That's exciting.
Huh. All right, Brent, you're going to have to be our guide to the league this year because none of us, the three of us, went. Everyone knows you're the party animal of the state press corps. So how many of those parties did you go to, you know, for work?
Yeah, I went to Nick Scutari's reception and to Craig Coughlin's reception. And they were, you know, the typical array of lawmakers there. Mikie Sherrill came on Wednesday and kind of bounced about, and Phil Murphy gave a speech on Thursday. I've been every year pretty much since I've covered that, and when the chamber train was still going, and now it's back. So those are the two things on the political calendar that I kind of feel like there's like superstition. If I miss it one year, that's the year something big happens.
Right.
And then you go and, you know, there's some news, but it's, you know, it's never like in the days when I heard, you know, back before I started covering politics in 2009. But before that, I heard like they used to pick governors in back rooms. Like that's when they would, you know, decide who gets the nomination when the county line was still a thing. So there's a chance something could happen.
Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff that actually happens at these parties, or as you call them, receptions.
Yeah.
I mean, there are deals that are made, and you know, some of the great corruption scandals in our history have started and been hatched, or at least cooked up in Atlantic City during the conference. So there's that. But what news, if any, did come out of it, Brent?
Well, I know there was talk about Mikie Sherrill gave an interview to NJPBS and talked about how she might start filling out her cabinet pretty soon.
Yeah, hold off on that because we are going to talk about that. Go on.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of a big question. And one thing as I was talking to people is that they haven't really heard many names bouncing about. There've been a few that have leaked, but it hasn't been like in the stretch after a new governor is elected, you hear, you know, this person might be attorney general, this person might be treasurer. And it's been kind of quiet. And maybe that's because she's a DC politician who's still getting used to Trenton, and there's not the rumor mill going around as usual. Craig Coughlin told me that he supports a cell phone ban, which is what Phil Murphy's been in schools. Phil Murphy's been pushing for a bell-to-bell cell phone ban in schools, and now he's on board. Question is, will Nick Scutari get on board? So we're starting to think about what may go down in lame duck. So that's pretty much what's kind of going down.
Yeah. Madison, was there the governor unveiled some proposal on local health benefits? Did you get a chance to hear that or see that? And how was it received?
Yeah, so the state health benefits plan is in a death spiral. It's, you know, it needs money. So the governor's proposing injecting $260 million into it to pay off some of those debts and have a reserve. But the other part of that plan is to also cut the number of insurance options for state employees, and it would also require some higher upfront costs for folks. You may imagine the unions were not ecstatic about that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's definitely ambitious to address in his last couple of months here, but it's something that really needs to get done. It's something that was looming over the whole campaign because, you know, if Murphy doesn't get to it, Mikey's going to have to get to it.
Right.
And, even if the legislature does address this in lame duck, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a done deal, because if this proposal gets through, you already see that unions are not very happy about it. And obviously, unions were a big boost to Governor-elect Sherrill. So there's going to be a lot of, I'm sure, discussion about this.
Did you miss not going to the conference?
Me, I mean, I was under the weather, so it's for the best I wasn't.
Have you been yet?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Daniel Hahn, your colleague over at Politico, was all over the place.
He usually is.
Yeah, and he seemed to be having a lot of fun too. So, Mikie Sherrill, as Brent mentioned, she made the rounds. I feel like Democrats must have been walking around like, this is our conference. I want to get some impressions on her interview with Brianna Venozzi over at NJ Spotlight News. But Aliya, you were with the governor-elect on this kind of Main Street walk that she did in Pittman down in Gloucester. Did you get any impressions from that? How was she received at all?
Yeah, so she visited a couple of local businesses in Pittman. They advertised it as her kind of going to talk about her agenda.
Yeah.
And this kind of happened during the campaign too, where it's mostly just kind of like being friendly with the local businesses
Right.
and not much policy talk. There was a little bit of talk of tariffs at a coffee shop. They did talk about that a little bit and how that's impacting his business. Definitely an impact, but he said he hasn't had to raise prices yet. The other stop was at a bookstore, and I'd say that it was more kind of just talking about the local community. And I think people were just really excited that she showed face. I think, especially in South Jersey, where there's this idea that South Jersey gets forgotten, people get really excited when statewide politicians come down here. And so I think for Mikie Sherrill to come down here so soon, definitely excited people. It was mostly kind of local Democratic surrogates, I'd say, that were at
Yeah.
these stops. But people were pretty excited, and she did talk to us reporters. There was a CBS reporter and camera crew there, and I was there. And she kind of repeated some of her campaign promises about lowering utility bills, getting rid of red tape. I kind of tried to push her a little bit on what exactly that means. And in terms of the red tape, she was talking more about kind of an online system, kind of in line with what she says about trying to put things more online in terms of transparency. And I think
Yeah.
she feels like that can help with some permitting processes. I think it's hard to talk about these logistics behind lowering utility bills. And, she's had various talking points she talks about when it comes to that. And one of them is, she says she's going to freeze rate hikes on day one. And I think there's still some confusion about like how exactly that's going to work and what exactly the utility companies are saying about it. She talks about putting more battery and solar projects online, and that was something I was able to get a little bit of a time frame from her. She said that can happen pretty quickly, like in about a year. So that was interesting to be able to talk to her a little bit deeper about that plan. But I still think, people are going to have to see how long it takes to actually see the impact on their pocketbooks. And I think that's kind of what people are going to be looking at as she starts her new term.
So did you watch any of her interview with Brianna Venozzi over at NJ Spotlight News? You touched on a lot of the stuff that she talked about. She's still kind of on talking points, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, Mikie Sherrill is really going to have to broaden the way she answers certain questions. I think
Yeah.
she has her talking points on the campaign trail that worked, but now there's more of this question of, okay, how are you actually going to do this? And also there should be less of this need from her team to protect her from maybe saying the wrong thing that Jack Ciattarelli is going to put into an ad now that she won by such a decisive margin. I think Brianna did a great job interviewing Mikie Sherrill and kind of pushing her to try to answer some specifics. I'd say there were plenty of questions that we did not get specifics on.
Yeah.
In terms of, you said you're not going to have Matt Platkin stay on as your AG. Like, why is that? We didn't really hear on that.
Right, because she said she described an AG that would fight the Trump administration. And I mean, Brianna brought up the fact that he had sued Trump like 25 times. So how isn't that her kind of AG?
Yeah, so yeah, Mikie Sherrill said, "Oh, I want an AG who's going to fight Trump," but she didn't really. She said Matt's done a great job doing that, but didn't really talk about like why she doesn't want him and what she
Right.
wants in someone else. There were a few kind of legislative questions that she didn't really give specifics on where she stands.
Yeah.
That I think people would like to hear from her now. She does this wording where she says, "I have been supportive of the Immigrant Trust Directive," but then she said she likes how it's written, but she wants to keep talking to people to see if it needs to be modified. And she said something about to make sure it's working the way she wants it to work. And
Yeah.
she did talk about wanting people to feel safe going to church, going to the grocery store. So I think she kind of hinted that she's open to modifications to it, but that she's not trying to get rid of it or anything like that.
Madison, a lot of kind of circular talking from the governor-elect, but you can't really expect much. I mean, she just got in the joint, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty on par with all the interviews she's done during the campaign. I
Yeah.
think they're still getting adjusted and everything. And like Aliya said, she talked a lot of her regular talking points, a lot of focus on affordability. So, I mean, she's still on message.
Yeah. Got to talk about lame duck. I just learned really a couple of weeks ago, to be honest, why it's called lame duck. Anybody on the panel know why it's called lame duck?
No, I don't, but now I'm intrigued.
You politics reporter don't? Evidently,
I know.
it's named that because it takes place when a lot of or some of the legislators are leaving office at the end of the session for whatever the few months are left in the session. So they're lame ducks. That's terrible. But anyway,
I'd like to see a duck try and legislate something.
yeah, well, listen, you gave me a great opening for a line there, but I'm going to pass, Brent. Thank you. Speaking of the lame ducks, Brent, you wrote about the sales tax chatter, cell phones, anything else in the lame duck that might surprise us?
I don't know if it's surprising us, but I mean, now there's this fight over state health benefits. I don't know how much
Yeah.
of that's going to get done in lame duck. There's also the reports that Scutari is pushing to move the state comptroller and other watchdog agencies into combine them.
Right.
I'm sure progressive advocates are not very happy about that. I know Kevin Walsh, our state comptroller, is certainly not happy about that. So I don't know how far that's going to go. I asked Coughlin about that this week, and he said, well, I'm as long as it's done correctly, I'm open to, if we need to consolidate things, make sure they're running the right way. So that seems to hint that he is okay with some form of this. I also don't know what the cell phone ban is going to, that looks like it probably does have legs. My guess is by the end of lame duck, we will have some sort of statewide cell phone ban in schools. There's probably still going to have to work out details of what that exactly looks like. It may be up to school districts to implement their own plans, but that looks like it's going to happen. But in terms of the other lame, there's always some weird surprise that comes up. That was very common during the Chris Christie days.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you would hear something pop up like December 23rd. So that wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Something else like to keep in mind here, though, is that the next governor is also a Democrat, and Democrats still have a huge majority in the legislature. So whatever doesn't get done in lame duck, I mean, it's not like Governor-elect Sherrill has radically different policies than Murphy. Even on the cell phone ban, she's expressed support of that. I mean, I do think cell phone has the legs to get through now, but in the off chance it doesn't, it's not like that's dead upon next year when she comes in.
Right.
Yep.
And the combining of the watchdogs was something that Brianna asked Mikie Sherrill in her interview, and she did not give a stance on that. She said something like, I'm not going to comment on something that's not an actual bill yet. But then she did kind of say that she's all for accountability and just like, again, it was kind of promising, like, I'm going to make sure everyone's accountable. Like, I'm going to make things affordable, kind of like these broad promises that I think she's going to have to like show her work.
Talking about the Immigrant Trust Act, she was a hard no, as Aliya said, on the Trust Act, making the distinction between the Immigrant Trust Directive, which came from the Attorney General before this one, and the law that advocates want, which is the Trust Act. But Madison, Latino voters and black voters turned up for Democrats again. They're going to be expecting something in return. Couldn't the legislature maybe help out Mikie Sherrill by dispensing with the Immigrant Trust Act so that she doesn't have to deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've been talking to a lot of Latino leaders in the aftermath of the election, and so many of them are pointing to her messaging on affordability and the economy as a reason why Latino voters came back to Democrats' side. And I mean, others also obviously point to all of the immigration and ICE intervention in the state and across the country, as a pushback against the Trump administration. People saw this vote. But, you know, Cheryl didn't really talk that much about immigration during her campaign. And I think that it's something she's going to have to address. She has talked about not wanting to allow ICE officers to wear masks. So I think that's a way she's sort of addressing this. But it's a bit of a prickly subject in the sense of it appeals to a lot of these more progressive voters as
Yeah.
well too. And throughout the campaign, she wanted to sort of walk this line and be more appeal to some of those more moderate folks because the rationale is these progressive voters might be annoyed at times, but they're still going to turn
They're
out
always going to
anyway.
be there.
Yeah, versus
Yeah.
those moderates who might have voted for Chitterelli. So, I mean, I think the fact that she is talking a little bit more explicitly about it now is a good thing. But even if it's not with Immigrant Trust Act and directive specifically, I think the immigration issue is obviously going to come up time and time again. But a big conversation I think Democrats are having is like, do we keep talking mostly about the economy, or like do we start weaving in some of this immigration stuff too? Because it's like, why would you? This is an issue that Republicans completely dominated on last year. Like, why open the floodgates and open yourself up to attacks on that when we can focus on the economy, which we finally sort of found our footing on?
Especially if the real answer to immigration is out of their hands. It's more on the federal level. But
Mhm.
could that be an early pressure point for the administration, that push and pull on certain policy issues, Aliya? Or does the administration simply have bigger fish to fry, like the state economy and the budget?
Well, I think in terms of whether it could be this point of tension is I do think that there are progressives who did come through to support Cheryl, who supported more progressive candidates during the primary. And I think even when there were things they weren't super satisfied with from Cheryl during the primary and during the general, they had this mindset that under Mikie Sherrill, they can have a fight, they can have a voice. Under Jack Ciattarelli, they would just be shut out. So I do think there will be some pressure coming from the progressive side of the party. I think it's a matter of, how big is that pressure and how is her administration going to handle that?
Yeah. Brent, you covered this during the campaign. Ross Baraka, Latino leaders. Baraka says he yelled, "I didn't get up early in the morning for nothing." So, I mean, there is going to be that pressure. How much pressure is open to question? I mean, it really will depend on how much juice Baraka really has in the party. Yeah.
And Baraka came away from the primary with a lot of juice. I mean, there was a
Yeah.
thought that if Mikie Sherrill lost 4 years from now, Roz Baraka would have been the favorite for the Democratic nomination to run for
Yeah.
governor again. So he's not going away. He's young. He's, 8 years is that, and who knows, Mikie Sherrill may be vice presidential candidate in a few years from now, for all we know. But which is what I keep hearing whispers about. But
Of course. What
I
would
know,
an Atlantic City conference be without it?
I know. But so
Anyway, go ahead.
obviously
Sorry.
Baraka still has a lot of juice, and
Yeah.
he, of course, I know that was not a very happy alliance, the two of them. Like obviously he went very hard after her in the primary, but he knew that they had a common enemy. They had a common enemy, Donald Trump, but they did not want a Republican governor, so he went with her. But she's gonna. There's an internal strife in the Democratic Party. There's some sort of civil war going on, and it's still going on. And just because Mikie Sherrill won the governorship doesn't mean the progressives all of a sudden are going to back off their priorities.
Yeah. Let's talk about Andy Kim for a quick minute. In the absence of Cory Booker, he's become the fresh face of the Democratic Party in New Jersey. Madison, he's endorsed Malinowski. He's criticizing legislation by Democrats made an endorsement in the Jersey City race, the Hoboken race. Is Andy Kim the new Cory Booker?
I mean, Cory Booker is still here, but maybe not in in New Jersey as much because he's in New Hampshire.
Yes.
No, I mean seriously, I think Andy Kim as a real progressive force is still proving himself as such. He's throwing his weight around in these primaries, which is really interesting to me because before he announced them, we were wondering if he was gonna get involved because you see Governor-elect Sherrill, she's not getting involved in her the race for her successor. But I think the fact that Kim was such an opponent of the county line and really made his mark there, and he's continuing to try to boost those progressive values. So I think especially when you have so many crazy crowded Democratic primaries, and we talk about this like internal strife in the Democratic Party, when you have a really prominent, strong progressive trying to make a mark there, that's really, really telling.
Yeah. All right. I want to wrap up today by following up on a conversation Aliya and I were having off camera about what's next now that the campaign is over. Let's pick that up. Aliya, was this your first Jersey reporting experience? Did you love it, and are you sticking around?
Oh, what's next for us for reporting?
Yes, individuals.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so sorry, I wasn't expecting this question.
We call
okay,
it a curveball.
Yeah, seriously, I thought you were going somewhere else with that. So
that makes one of us because I didn't know where I was going with it, but go ahead.
You really keep us at the edge of our seats. So during the
You can also pass on this question too.
No, I can answer it. I'm just like,
because she seems to be having a hard time answering it. Just say it. Go on.
No, I can. Okay, so basically during my first year at the Inquirer, I was really focused a lot on like the presidential election in Pennsylvania, but I also did like random general assignment New Jersey politics stuff, like with Andy Kim and Tammy Murphy and stuff like that.
Did you love it? Are you sticking around?
I wasn't done answering. But then I was able to focus a lot more on New Jersey, covering the governor's race.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I have to balance covering Pennsylvania and New Jersey, which is like a really fun thing to have to do because both states are incredibly interesting. I'm biased, but when it comes to politics, so I am sticking around. I'm also covering Pennsylvania, so I'm kind of standing with a foot in each state. So I'm not going anywhere, but I am also helping with Pennsylvania and not leaving Pennsylvania either. So I'm doing both. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And then some. But I love the Jersey hand thing that you got going, so that's good. Madison, you had a great year. I think I saw you during the first time I saw you was, I think, at the Bergen Democratic Convention, and you were all over the place. And I'm like, who's this kid? But you had a great year since then. Did you love it? And are you still going to be covering Jersey?
Yeah, I loved it. And the midterms are right now. We have so many crazy primaries coming up. So if you are one of the many Democrats running for Congress, please reach out to me. You know where to find me.
Brent, what makes Jersey Run newsletter, I assume, is going to continue because Jersey's always running for something.
It's true. They've got another big election season coming up. So I'm also doing a lot more videos. So you can catch me on your local TikTok and YouTube. And so I'm always I like the attention. So
I'm going to get into TikToks too, just so that I can follow the trend of the dancing anchorman. You ever see that?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I'm never going to do that.
I will be singing about how expensive Thanksgiving is in New Jersey for a TikTok coming up this week.
Oh man, the guy is a plugging machine.
Can I join my cat on TikTok? Like, do you think I'd have an audience if it's like the focus is on my cat, but I'm also there talking about New Jersey politics?
Yeah, I mean, people. I put Hodges, my dog, in all the time, and my kids too.
Yeah.
Everly and Carter are always in my TikToks.
Let me tell you something. Having just joined the virtual world, kittens and dogs And babies rule. It's amazing.
A lot of joy to be had in seeing videos of kittens and dogs and babies.
All right, Press Corps is done for the week. Aliya, Brent, Madison, thanks for hanging with us. If you're watching, you should be liking and subscribing. No Press Corps next week, by the way. We'll see you the week after. I'm David Cruz. Thanks for streaming. We'll see you then.